Welcome back to Shadow Steam. It's quiet here, isn't it? Like the kind of quiet that only exists when you've gone too far down. Something you can't quite close anymore. Tonight, we're not talking about haunted houses or cursed woods. We're going somewhere most of us visit every day, the internet. But these aren't normal stories. These are 4 deeply disturbing rabbit holes that were never meant to be found. Each one began with a click, an innocent search, a strange comment, a forgotten link, and ended in places that don't want to let go of you. Some are digital myths, others, they leave proof, be careful. These stories aren't about ghosts. They're about what happens when something online starts looking back. Most people who end up here never hit subscribe. Maybe they forget, or maybe they don't come back. Tell me, what time is it where you are right now? Are you watching in the dark? And where in the world are you hearing my voice from tonight? Let me know. Down below. Let's begin. The first thing I noticed was the sound. This faint rhythmic clicking that didn't belong to anything in my apartment. It wasn't my keyboard and it wasn't the clock. It was softer, irregular, like a mouse button being pressed from inside the walls. At first I thought it was nothing. Maybe my upstairs neighbor again, the guy who always played games until 3 a.m. But when I muted my laptop, the clicking stayed. It matched my movements. When I stopped typing, it stopped. When I started again, it picked up, just half a second behind. I didn't think fear could sound so small. My screen was open to a forum thread about obscure internet archives. It started as a boredom thing, a rabbit hole of weird sites you're not supposed to visit. I'd been scrolling through lists of abandoned data repositories, old backups, forgotten FTP servers, weird directories full of broken code. Nothing unusual, just the usual digital ghosts, until I saw the name Red Archive. The post was short. It said, if you find it, don't download anything. They're not dead files. They're waiting. That's all. No links, no screenshots. Just that sentence. At first I assumed it was just creepypasta, but curiosity does what it always does. It starts whispering what if. So I searched. I don't even know why. Maybe I wanted to prove it wasn't real. It took me 40 minutes of searching, cross-referencing, and clicking through redirect after redirect. And then there it was. An IP address that shouldn't have resolved, but did. No web design. Just a blank white page with one red folder icon. The Red Archive zippy hovered my cursor over it. My laptop fan whirred as if it already knew this was a bad idea. When I clicked download, the clicking in my apartment started. It wasn't even a big file like 240 MB. I watched the bar fill, slow and steady, then stop at 99%. My Wi-Fi icon flickered. My hands felt cold even though the room wasn't. When it finished, the zip extracted itself. I didn't do it. The folder appeared, opened automatically. Inside were hundreds of subfolders, all named by coordinates. Latitude and longitude pairs. I clicked the first one. Inside was a single image. At first glance, it was just a blurry photo. Looked like the inside of someone's kitchen with this cheap yellow light. But there was a timestamp at the bottom and the file name, 2024-09-1804-22.jpg. That's when my brain made the connection. That was yesterday's date, and the timestamp 4:22 a.m. That was the same time I'd gotten up last night to get water. I stared at it for a long time, trying to rationalize. It couldn't be my kitchen, right? The fridge was wrong, the walls too dark. But then I saw it. My red coffee mug on the counter, the one with the chipped handle. My throat went dry. I closed the folder and turned on all the lights. That's when the clicking came again. This time louder, closer, like it was coming from my own laptop speakers. I unplugged them, thinking maybe it was interference, but it kept going. Then I realized it wasn't random. It was matching my movements again. When I stood, the clicking stopped. When I moved the mouse, it resumed. It was copying me. I remember checking every corner of that apartment, behind the monitor, under the desk, even the ceiling vents. Nothing, just that faint, repeating click. When I came back to the desk, the folder structure on my screen had changed. I swear it. There was a new folder, bolded red this time. Live, it hadn't been there before. Inside were more image files, but the timestamps were future times. 15 p.m., 9:32 p.m., 10:04 p.m. The first one opened automatically. It was a picture of me sitting at my desk. The same hoodie, same laptop, same lighting, taken from an angle just behind me like a webcam shot, but I wasn't streaming. I wasn't even logged into anything. I covered my webcam instantly, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. I unplugged everything, Ethernet cable, router, power cord. But the image window didn't close. It stayed frozen on screen like the system had stopped listening to me. The clicking grew faster and then came the typing. I didn't touch a thing. The Notepad app opened by itself. A black window, white text, each letter appearing one by one. I like when you open the folders. I slammed the laptop shut. I sat in silence for a long time, just breathing, listening for anything else. The apartment felt wrong, like it was smaller than before. The walls almost pressing in. The hum of the fridge sounded louder, deeper. Every sound felt personal. Eventually, I convinced myself it had to be malware, some kind of elaborate prank or virus. That had to be it. So I packed the laptop in my backpack and drove to my friend Leo's place. He's one of those cybersecurity guys, the type who lives for puzzles like this. When I showed him, he just laughed. Bro, probably just a rat, remote access tool. They love scaring people like this. He booted it up in his lab setup, total isolation. Let's see what your spooky zip files got. The folder tree was still there, but Lev was gone. In its place, there was a single file. LEOJP, he froze. You made this? I didn't even answer. The picture opened automatically. Just static at first, then faint shapes forming. It was Leo's office. Same chair, same monitors. But his reflection in the monitor wasn't him. The thing in the reflection had no eyes, just black pits. Leo slammed the laptop shut so hard it cracked the frame. He said nothing for a full minute. Then he whispered, "You need to leave that drive here. Don't plug it in again. Don't even touch the laptop." I nodded, but when I looked down, my phone vibrated. A notification, unknown sender. You shouldn't have shown him. I don't remember driving home. I just remember the dread, like the world around me was watching, waiting. My apartment windows reflected light wrong. My own face looked delayed in the glass. When I got inside, the first thing I saw was my red coffee mug. The same chipped one from the picture, only it wasn't on the counter where I'd left it. It was in the middle of the floor. Cold. Damp. There were fingerprints on it that weren't mine. That night I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw flashes. Image thumbnails, coordinates scrolling, red icons multiplying. I unplugged everything, even my phone. I even threw a blanket over the mirrors because I started catching glimpses of things that weren't quite reflections. I tried to convince myself this was just my brain breaking from stress. But around 3:17 a.m. I heard typing again. Slow, deliberate. I looked toward the desk. My laptop was still shut. The sound was coming from inside it. And then faintly I heard the notification chime again. Low. Distorted. When I opened the lid, the desktop wallpaper had changed. It was a photo of my hallway, not an old photo, a live one. The timestamp in the corner read 3:17:08. The same time I was looking at it, I turned toward the hallway, empty. I stared for a full minute before stepping closer. The air felt colder the further I went, like opening a freezer door. My heartbeat was so loud I almost didn't hear the floorboard creak behind me, but I did. When I spun around, no one was there, just my laptop sitting open on the desk again, like I'd never moved it. A new window had opened. This one wasn't an image. It was a text file. It read, "This is where you were last night. This is where you'll be again," and underneath it, another line began typing itself, one letter at a time. "We are not watching you. You are part of us now." I tried to delete everything. Dragged the entire folder to trash, emptied it. Even factory reset the drive. But when the system rebooted, the desktop was blank white again. Just one red folder in the middle of the screen. The red archive zip. Except now there was no download button, just one line of text beneath it. I didn't open my laptop again for 3 days. I couldn't even look at it without feeling like something behind the screen might blink. I told myself I'd imagined it all. That it was just stress, exhaustion, maybe some kind of visual glitch mixed with late-night paranoia. But every night the same thing happened. I'd wake up around 3 a.m. to that soft clicking sound, like a mouse button, slow and deliberate. On the third night, I unplugged everything in the apartment, TV, router, even my alarm clock. I wanted silence. But the clicking kept going. It wasn't digital anymore. It was inside the walls. I moved the couch, pressed my ear to the plaster. Nothing. Then when I stepped back, I noticed something faint. Red marks near the outlet, like fingerprints. I touched them without thinking. Dry, dusty, not blood. It looked like rust. That's when my phone lit up, even though it was in airplane mode. One new notification. No app name, just folder updated. Live, my stomach dropped. The phone vibrated again. A new photo appeared in my gallery. My hallway. Same timestamp format. Same red tint. Only this time there was something else. A faint silhouette at the end of the hall. Not close enough to see details. Just there, I turned toward the hallway. Empty. Then the light flickered once, twice. When it came back, my front door was open a few inches. I don't remember moving. 1 second I was staring at it. The next I was slamming it shut and throwing the lock. The next morning I went to Leo's office again. His lab was dark, monitors off. The receptionist said he hadn't been in for 2 days. No one had heard from him. She said someone came to pick up his equipment late last night. A man with no ID, just an old printed badge. Said he was from digital preservation. I didn't ask more. I just left. When I got home, my laptop was gone. I hadn't touched it, hadn't even been near my desk. But the chair was pushed back, the cables unplugged, and there was a faint smear of red dust across the surface. Same color as the marks by the outlet. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Stop looking for it, no voice. Just text, then another. They archive what you see. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. But curiosity, that same sick impulse that made me click the file in the first place, wouldn't let me stop. So I texted back, "Who are you?" The typing bubble appeared, then disappeared. Then came the reply, "You already downloaded me. I don't sleep anymore." When I close my eyes, I see static, sometimes faces in it, half-rendered, flickering like they're trying to load. The clicking still happens, but now it sounds slower. Like something pacing. Sometimes it stops right behind me. I tried to find anyone else online who'd seen the red archive. Nothing. The original forum post that mentioned it, gone, the user's account deleted. Even my browser history, blank. It's like the entire thing rewrote itself out of existence. But last night, when I plugged in an old USB drive, my computer's desktop came back on by itself. White background. One red folder. This time the name was different. Return. When I opened it, there was a single image. My own reflection, sitting exactly as I was. Hands on the keyboard, same clothes, same lighting. Only the eyes were blacked out like someone had drawn over them with paint. Underneath, one more file appeared. readmefirst.txt. I didn't open it, but I can still hear the faint clicking coming from the drive, like something inside is waiting. The clicking stopped. That should have made me feel better. But silence can be worse than any sound. Silence meant I had to listen to my own thoughts, and lately, my thoughts didn't feel like they all belonged to me. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see flashes of red folders floating in white space, thousands of them, stretching endlessly, like an ocean made of data. And somewhere in that sea, one of them had my name. I told myself I'd delete everything again, wipe the drives, smash the laptop if I had to. But when I tried, I realized something. Every device I owned already had a copy. My phone, my external drives, even the smart TV in my living room. Each one had a hidden folder called We Return. It wasn't visible through normal browsing, but when I searched for the file structure through command prompt, it was always there. That's when I noticed the timestamps. They weren't random. Each one matched a time I'd been online, a time I'd been watched. The last time I saw Leo, he'd been pale, eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept in days. He told me something before I left that I hadn't really processed until now. You can't delete what's already archived. I didn't know what he meant then. Now I do. The red archive isn't just a folder. It's a system, a mirror, maybe even a map. It doesn't record what exists. It records moments of observation. Every time I look at something online, it looks back. Every page, every camera, every screen, each one becomes another coordinate in its collection. And once it sees you, you're stored. I tried staying offline. 3 whole days. No internet, no phone. But when I finally turned my phone back on to check the time, a notification blinked. Sync complete. I froze. The same red folder icon appeared at the top of my screen for just a second before disappearing. Then the camera light flashed once, twice, then off again. I turned the phone over and stared at my reflection in the black glass. For half a second, I could have sworn it wasn't me staring back. That night, I drove to Leo's office again. The building was empty. Lights off, doors locked. But through the glass, I could see his desk and something on the monitor. A white screen. One red folder. I shouldn't have, but I used my elbow to smash through the side window and climb in. The screen flickered when I got close. I could see my reflection in it. Tired eyes, shaking hands. The folder opened on its own. There were only 2 subfolders this time. Leo and Observer. Inside, Leo were photos, hundreds of them, taken from every angle in his office. Different days, different clothes, all slightly off focus like stills from security footage. Then the Observer folder opened itself. It was full of screenshots from my laptop. My messages, my searches, my face. At the bottom, there was one final file, log final MP4. The thumbnail showed a black screen with red text. I shouldn't have played it. But of course I did. The video started with static, then Leo's voice shaking. If you're watching this, it's already too late. They're not files, they're watchers. Each archive is a person who looked too deep. The red archive doesn't store data. It absorbs witnesses. There was a bang in the background like someone slamming a door, then silence. The camera fell, catching a glimpse of movement behind him. A figure made of glitching pixels, shifting like corrupted code. The video froze there mid-motion, before the player crashed. When I looked back at the folder, there was a new file. Me, and inside it, a single image, my face. But the timestamp read tomorrow. I left the building immediately. It was raining hard by the time I got to my car, the kind of rain that makes the world look distorted. My reflection in the windshield didn't move when I did. When I blinked, it didn't. When I drove, it smiled. I don't know how long I've been awake. Maybe days. My clocks keep changing time. My lights flicker even when the power's out. I've stopped trying to fix it. The archive isn't in the laptop anymore, it's everywhere. Every reflection, every device, every shadow that looks just a little too still. Sometimes when I turn off the lights, I see faint red glows along the walls, shaped like folders. If I stare long enough, I can almost hear them opening one by one, like doors clicking open in the dark. And underneath it all, that faint, slow clicking sound has returned. I think I finally understand what it is. It's not a mouse. It's typing, recording. I started noticing small things disappearing. Not big stuff, little forgettable things. The dent in my coffee mug was gone. The small rip in my hoodie sleeve, gone. The sticky note on my fridge that said, "Buy milk?" Blank, just a yellow square. At first I thought I was losing my mind, but then I realized it wasn't that things were missing. It was like the world was resetting itself, one detail at a time. Every time I caught the reflection of something, it looked slightly wrong. Like reality was being re-rendered. I stopped using mirrors. I covered my laptop screen with duct tape. I turned off every device I owned, but even with the power out, the glow didn't go away. Red light started leaking through the seams of my blinds at night. Not from outside, from the inside. A faint pulse, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. When I pressed my ear to the wall, I could hear it, the clicking again, slower now, like something tired but patient. It felt like waiting. I drove out to the edge of town. No phone, no laptop, no electronics. I rented a small cabin that barely had power. The guy at the front desk didn't even ask for ID. That first night was quiet. Too quiet. No clicking, no screens flickering. Just crickets and wind. But when I woke up the next morning, there was a USB drive sitting on the floor by the door. Plain black. No label, I didn't touch it. I just stared at it for hours. Finally, I threw it into the fireplace. The plastic hissed, melted, then split open with a small pop. Inside was something red, metallic, like a tiny shard of wire glowing faintly. The air smelled like burning copper. And then I heard it. Typing. Not from a device. From behind the wall, tap, tap, pause, tap, like fingers learning to copy the sound of a keyboard. By nightfall, the cabin lights started flickering. I could hear something outside. Leaves crunching, steady, slow. I grabbed a flashlight and looked out the window. The beam caught something about 50 feet away. A shape standing between the trees. Not moving. Not breathing, just watching. I shut the curtains. The clicking started again, fast this time, like frantic typing. My phone, dead since I got there, lit up on its own. Sync in progress. Return, I threw it against the wall. The flashlight went out. The room was red. I remember the sound of my heartbeat, loud and uneven. I could smell ozone like hot wires. The air shimmered faintly like heat waves. And then, the wall in front of me flickered. Just for a second, I saw something underneath the wood panels, like a screen trying to push through reality. Red code lines scrolling behind the wallpaper, and a reflection. My own face, except it was smiling. When I came to, it was morning. The power was dead. My phone was gone. The USB ashes were cold, but written across the window in smeared dust were coordinates. Latitude, longitude. I checked them later at a library computer. It was my apartment's address. I drove home that same day, not sure why. Maybe I wanted proof that I still existed somewhere outside of this thing. When I opened the door, the air inside was thick, heavy, humid, like the apartment had been sealed for months. My laptop was sitting on the desk again. Turned on, the screen showed a white page, one red folder in the center. Observer. When I clicked it, there were videos. Hundreds of them. All of me. Different days, different clothes, different angles. Some looked like old surveillance footage. Some didn't. Some were moments that hadn't happened yet. In one of them, I was standing exactly where I was now, staring at the screen, my hands shaking. Then the video changed. The version of me on screen turned toward the camera, slowly, precisely, and whispered something I couldn't hear. The speakers crackled. The sound warped, then my voice came through. But not from the speakers, from behind me. Stop looking, I turned around, nothing. But on the screen, the version of me was still talking. The audio synced again. You can't look away now. The lights went out. When they came back on, the screen was blank white again. Only one line of red text blinking at the bottom. Archive status merging. The air felt wrong the second I read that word. Merging. It wasn't just the screen, everything in the room started to hum like every wire in the walls was alive. My reflection in the black window pane started to blur, colors running like wet paint. For the first time I could hear it breathing. The archive. It wasn't a sound you could locate. It came from everywhere. The walls, the floor, the back of my throat. The hum rose into a pulse, slow, heavy. The cursor blinked on the white screen. Then more text appeared, one line at a time. You shouldn't have come back. You were supposed to be a file. Nothing stays human here. I tried to shut the laptop, but it wouldn't close. It was like the hinge was fused solid. The red light under the keys began to pulse in rhythm with my heartbeat. For a second, the room felt like it tilted. The floor stretched, the walls bent inward. Then came the static. Every electronic device in the apartment came to life at once. The TV, the microwave, my phone, even the dead router, all flashing red, cycling through the same folder structure. Observer, return, merge. The windows glowed faintly white, like backlit screens. I could see movement in them, shapes, human shapes all facing me, watching. And then, behind me, a voice. Not a whisper this time. My voice. You shouldn't have looked. I spun around. The room was empty, but on the laptop screen the camera had turned on by itself. The preview showed me standing there, breathing hard, my face lit by that blood-red glow. Only the version of me in the feed wasn't still. It was moving closer to the camera. I stumbled back, but the figure on screen didn't stop. It leaned forward until its face filled the frame. My own eyes stared back, black, hollow, pixelated around the edges like corrupted data. And then it smiled. I don't remember falling. I just remember waking up on the floor, my head pounding, the room silent again. The screen was dark. I thought maybe it was over. Maybe it had just fried my system, but when I tried to move, the keyboard clicked once by itself and the screen lit up again. This time, no folders. Just a single message in the middle of the page, import complete. My heart stopped for a second. Then I saw the file name appear. Me Zip It started extracting automatically. Inside one single video today, DemP4, the thumbnail showed me sitting exactly as I was. Same position, same lighting. When it played, the video didn't show the room around me. It showed the inside of the screen. White. Infinite. red folders stretching endlessly in every direction, and in the middle of them, me. A copy. Still, expressionless, waiting. The real me, or whatever was left, was watching from the other side, heartbeat loud in my ears. Then the copy lifted its hand and pressed it against the inside of the screen. The glass rippled, faintly like water, and I felt it. Cold. Sharp. The hand on my side. I don't know how long it's been since that moment. The days don't move here. I think I'm still in my apartment, but everything looks washed out like a screenshot of what it used to be. There's no real sound, just that low hum. The red folder still sits open on the desk. Sometimes it flickers. Sometimes I can see people inside it. Hundreds of them. Faces frozen mid-expression, all staring through their own screens. I think they're the others. The ones who opened it before me. Sometimes when I move, they move too, half a second behind. Like reflections lagging in time. A few nights ago, the clicking came back. Not behind the wall this time. From inside my head. Every time I blink, I see new folders opening. Mirror, camera, door. Each one flashes red, then disappears, leaving behind faint afterimages that hang in the air like smoke. I've stopped fighting it, because I realized something. The archive doesn't need to watch anymore. It is me now. I'm the folder, the observer, the one recording the next person who looks too long. If you ever see it, if that red folder shows up on your screen even for a second, don't click it. Don't hover over it. Don't think about it, because the moment you do, it already knows your name. It already has your reflection, and somewhere in the white space behind your monitor, a new file appears. The warning looked like a joke at first. Whatever you do, don't scroll to comment number 52. I'd seen plenty of weird internet dares before. Backroom stories, cursed posts, chainmail copy pasta. But something about that line felt different. It wasn't exaggerated, no emojis, no fake "you'll die in 7 days" threat. Just 10 plain words posted by an anonymous user 9 years ago. I was bored, lying in bed with the blue light of my phone reflecting off the ceiling. I'd been scrolling through archived message boards, old paranormal stuff from the early 2010s preserved on some mirror site. Thread 1198 caught my eye because the title was so plain. What's the strangest thing you've seen online? The page loaded slowly, like the site was breathing through a straw. Gray background, pixel block text. I could almost hear the dial-up tone in my head. Every comment had a number beside it, little counters from 1 to 51. Then came the gap. Nothing below near 51, the page just stopped like the next post had been deleted. I refreshed. And that's when the faint static started, barely audible through my earbuds. Not a video, not an ad, just this quiet hiss. Like a microphone open on an empty room. At the bottom of the thread, a line appeared that hadn't been there before. Scroll once. The screen dimmed slightly, as if the phone's brightness slider had moved by itself. I rubbed my eyes and told myself it was some weird script glitch. Maybe an autoplay effect left in the HTML. But when I touched the screen, it felt warmer, almost like someone else's hand had been there just before mine. I scrolled. Nothing changed. I exhaled, half laughing, half embarrassed at how tense I'd been. Then I noticed the comment count. It didn't stop at 51 anymore. It said 52 comments. There it was. The username beside it looked scrambled, random characters that made no sense. No profile link, no timestamp. Just a black rectangle where the avatar should have been. When I tapped the post, the static got louder. "You looked too soon." That was all it said. Short sentence. No punctuation, and then my phone screen went black. I thought the app had crashed, but the rest of the phone worked fine. Notifications still sliding in at the top, battery indicator still glowing. I pressed the power button twice, trying to reboot. The screen stayed dark for 5 seconds. Then it lit up again, showing my front camera. My own face stared back at me, ghostlit by the pale glow. But there was something off, the angle was slightly wrong. I was holding the phone under my chin, yet the reflection looked like the camera was above me. I lowered the phone. The image lowered half a second later. I could hear my breathing through the speaker, delayed like an echo caught between screens. Then a faint whisper. Buried under the static, next. The camera closed on its own. The browser reopened. Thread 1198 was gone. My search history was empty, like the app had been reinstalled from scratch. But when I opened my downloads folder, there was a new file. Comment52.txt inside. Once read, always seen, that's it. No date, no signature. Just those 4 words. I deleted it, or at least I tried to. The phone froze halfway through, then shut off completely. When it powered back on, my lock screen wallpaper had changed. A screenshot of the message I'd just deleted. The next day felt off in tiny ways I couldn't explain. Every time I opened a browser, it defaulted to a white page with a loading circle that never finished. The Wi-Fi signal flickered, but when I checked my router, all the lights were solid green. At work, my coworker Eli noticed me zoning out and asked if I was okay. I told him I hadn't slept much. He smiled, shrugged, and said, "Yeah, you look like you've seen a ghost." That phrase hit harder than it should have, because that's exactly how I felt. Like something had seen me first. That night, I tried to retrace the site. Every link to that archive now redirected to a 404 page. Even the search results vanished mid-refresh, as if the web itself was erasing my footprints. At 3:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No caller ID, just a single text. 53 is ready. I stared at it until the letters blurred. I didn't reply. But when I checked the thread again through a cached copy, there was a new comment. 53, it was from my account. The first thing I did was check if anyone had hacked me. Password reset, 2-factor, new SIM, I did everything. But my username stayed there, posted on a thread that shouldn't exist anymore. The message beside it was short. He looked. That was it. No emoji, no punctuation. Just my name and those 2 words. I stared at the page until my eyes burned. When I hit refresh, the comment disappeared, but the number didn't drop. It still read 53 comments. And under the header, the site displayed a new line of text. Most recent reply, awaiting observer. I told myself it had to be cached, some server bug. I'd read stories about sites stuck in ghost loops. But when I clicked back, the browser froze for half a second and then displayed something I hadn't typed. Users, documents, downloads, comment 53. Text, the path was local. It was pointing to my computer. I opened my file explorer, half expecting to find nothing. There it was, same name. Created 1 minute ago. The file wasn't text, it was a recording. A short audio clip. At first it was just silence, then a faint breath. My breath. And right before it cut off, a voice behind me whispered my name. I jumped so hard I almost dropped the phone. The room was empty. Lights off except for the laptop glow. The clip ended with the same soft static I'd heard that first night. For the rest of the week, small things kept breaking in ways that didn't make sense. My search bar autofilled random numbers. Every playlist on Spotify renamed itself 52. My work calendar filled with blank appointments labeled observer meeting. When I mentioned it to Eli, he tried to laugh it off. "You probably clicked on one of those experimental AI archives," he said. "Half the internet's haunted by bad code these days." Still, he offered to look at my laptop after work. He never got the chance. The next morning, he didn't show. No text, no call. HR said he'd taken a personal day. I told myself it was coincidence until lunch when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Don't let them read your name. I stared at it for a full minute before the second message arrived. They already took his. My hands went cold. I wanted to delete the messages, but before I could, they vanished on their own. That night, I heard typing while I slept. Soft, slow, rhythmic. I don't even own a mechanical keyboard. Mine's silent. The sound came from my desk anyway, key after key pressing in the dark. When I turned on the lamp, the typing stopped. The monitor showed the thread again, even though I'd deleted the cache and wiped history. This time there were 54 comments. And the latest one, or 54, wasn't from me. It was from Eli, his message. It's not a thread. It's a list. I couldn't breathe. The timestamp showed tomorrow's date. I tried to screenshot it, but every image came out black. When I checked my downloads, there was another new file. Comment 54txt.inside. Once read, always seen. The same phrase from before. I disconnected everything. Wi-Fi off. Battery out. Even the modem unplugged. But the browser window stayed open on my screen like it had been burned in. The cursor blinked once, twice, then started typing on its own. Where did you go? I slammed the lid shut and threw the laptop under a blanket. The light still leaked through the fabric, flickering red and white like a heartbeat. For a while, I just sat there in the dark, trying not to move. When the silence finally came, it felt heavier than the noise. Then my phone vibrated, a text from Eli's number. No words, just an image. A screenshot of my bedroom taken from above. The same angle my front camera had shown me days earlier. Except in the picture, I wasn't alone. Something stood over me, blurred and faceless. One hand resting on my shoulder as I slept. The next morning, I drove to the public library because it was the only place I could still get Wi-Fi without using my own devices. My laptop stayed at home under a pile of towels, like covering it might keep the signal from finding me. The computers here still ran on old browsers, no saved history, no syncing. I typed thread 1198 into the search bar. The results were strange. No paranormal forums, no archived pages, just dozens of dead links, each titled with a number. No text previews, no metadata, just the numbers. When I clicked the first, the monitor flickered and went blank for a full 10 seconds. Then a new tab opened on its own, showing a spreadsheet titled Active Observers. 54 names, one highlighted in red. Mine. The rest were grayed out. I scrolled down. At the bottom of the page, a cell blinked like a cursor, waiting for next. A librarian walked past and I minimized the window. The noise of normal life, printers, whispers, keyboards, made the moment feel distant, almost manageable. Then the computer fan spun up, loud and ragged. The minimized window opened itself again. A chat box appeared at the bottom corner. Observer. Why did you leave the feed? Me, who is this? Observer. We only collect what's looked at. You looked. The cursor blinked 3 times and another line appeared. Observer. Eli's connection restored. The screen glitched. Half the spreadsheet cells flashed red. The lights above the cubicle hummed louder, flickering in sync with the cursor. I yanked the power cord from the wall. The screen went black, but the reflection of the chat box lingered faintly on the glass, like afterimage on a burned monitor. I didn't wait for it to fade. Outside, the air felt thin. My phone, which I'd left on airplane mode, lit up anyway. New notification. Download complete. Comment 55.txt. I didn't open it. I drove aimlessly until the signal bars dropped away. The horizon was just power lines and open fields. For the first time in days, the static in my ears was gone, but the silence felt wrong. Too absolute. When I stopped for gas, I noticed my reflection in the side mirror looked slightly off timing again. A half-beat delay when I moved. I turned sharply, trying to catch it lagging, and for a split second the reflection didn't move at all. It just stared back, mouth open as if forming words I couldn't hear. Then it caught up. That night I stayed at a roadside motel. No Wi-Fi, no smart TV, just a key in a door that didn't close right. I kept the phone powered off and left it on the bathroom counter. Sleep came in fragments, short drops into darkness followed by that feeling of being watched. At one point I dreamed the old thread was printed across the ceiling, each number pulsing faintly like stars. When I woke up, the wallpaper above the bed was covered in faint indents. Tiny marks shaped exactly like keyboard letters. Don't scroll. I pressed my thumb over the first D. It was cold, like the impression had just been made. I packed my bag before sunrise. As I turned the key in the door, my phone buzzed even though the screen said no service. A new text from a blank contact. Offline doesn't mean unseen. Then another. Comment 56 uploading. The next morning I drove to the public library because it was the only place I could still get Wi-Fi without using my own devices. My laptop stayed at home under a pile of towels, like covering it might keep the signal from finding me. The computers here still ran on old browsers. No saved history, no syncing. I typed thread 1198 into the search bar. The results were strange. No paranormal forums, no archived pages, just dozens of dead links, each titled with a number. No text previews, no metadata, just the numbers. When I clicked the first, the monitor flickered and went blank for a full 10 seconds. Then a new tab opened on its own, showing a spreadsheet titled Active Observers. 54 names. One highlighted in red. Mine, the rest were grayed out. I scrolled down. At the bottom of the page, a cell blinked like a cursor. Waiting for next. A librarian walked past and I minimized the window. The noise of normal life, printers, whispers, keyboards, made the moment feel distant, almost manageable. Then the computer fan spun up, loud and ragged. The minimized window opened itself again. A chat box appeared at the bottom corner. Observer. Why did you leave the feed? Me. Who is this? Observer. We only collect what's looked at. You looked. The cursor blinked 3 times and another line appeared. Observer. Eli's connection restored. The screen glitched. Half the spreadsheet cells flashed red. The lights above the cubicle hummed louder, flickering in sync with the cursor. I yanked the power cord from the wall. The screen went black, but the reflection of the chat box lingered faintly on the glass, like after image on a burned monitor. I didn't wait for it to fade. Outside, the air felt thin. My phone, which I'd left on airplane mode, lit up anyway. New notification. Download complete. Comment55.txt. I didn't open it. I drove aimlessly until the signal bars dropped away. The horizon was just power lines and open fields. For the first time in days, the static in my ears was gone, but the silence felt wrong. Too absolute. When I stopped for gas, I noticed my reflection in the side mirror looked slightly off timing again. A half-beat delay when I moved. I turned sharply, trying to catch it lagging, and for a split second the reflection didn't move at all. It just stared back, mouth open as if forming words I couldn't hear. Then it caught up. That night I stayed at a roadside motel. No Wi-Fi, no smart TV, just a key and a door that didn't close right. I kept the phone powered off and left it on the bathroom counter. Sleep came in fragments, short drops into darkness followed by that feeling of being watched. At one point I dreamed the old thread was printed across the ceiling, each number pulsing faintly like stars. When I woke up, the wallpaper above the bed was covered in faint indents, tiny marks shaped exactly like keyboard letters. Don't scroll. I pressed my thumb over the first D. It was cold, like the impression had just been made. I packed my bag before sunrise. As I turned the key in the door, my phone buzzed even though the screen said no service. A new text from a blank contact. Offline doesn't mean unseen. Then another. Comment 56, uploading. The messages stopped for a full day after I left the motel, and for a moment I almost believed that whatever it was needed a signal to reach me. Then the dreams started syncing with time. Every night I woke at exactly 3:12 a.m., the minute that first text had arrived. I'd sit up, heart pounding, room silent, until something inside my head whispered scroll. Not aloud, not even like thought, more like remembering a word that had never been spoken. I tried to fight it the first 2 nights. By the third I gave in. I turned the phone on. No signal bars, yet the screen filled with notifications. Hundreds of them. Each one time-stamped for the future. Comment 57, ext. Comment 58, ext. Comment 59, txt. I didn't open any, but the phone began vibrating non-stop. It felt like holding a heartbeat that wasn't mine. The files weren't downloads anymore. They were recordings. Each one showed the same video. The view from my front camera tilted slightly upward, as if the phone were resting on my chest while I slept. Every clip ended the same way, my face twitching, eyes opening, staring straight into the lens before the image cut to static, but I hadn't been sleeping near the phone. I drove back home. Every mile closer, the GPS rerouted itself toward an address I didn't recognize, 1198 Maple Lane. There's no Maple Lane in my town. When I reached my street, every house number glowed faintly red in the dark like the digits on alarm clocks. My porch light was the only thing still white. Inside, everything looked frozen exactly as I'd left it, except the laptop on my desk was open again. The screen pulsed faintly, showing a white progress bar. Uploading comment 56-100. Please wait, I unplugged the power. The bar kept moving. The sound returned. Soft static mixed with faint whispering like a crowd behind a thin wall. I moved closer. The words weren't English, more like fragments of usernames, timestamps, laughter spliced backward. Then a clear voice, mine, said quietly, "You're almost done." The progress bar reached 60%. The screen flashed and the feed changed to my webcam view. At first it was me, just standing there. Then a second figure appeared behind my reflection, blurred, watching. I spun around. Nothing. When I looked back, the figure was closer to the camera. The progress bar jumped to 61%. I grabbed the laptop and ran outside. The night was heavy and colorless, the air humming like low electricity. On the screen, the upload paused. Then a new line appeared beneath the bar. Connection lost. Searching for observer. The red light on the webcam blinked once, then again from the streetlight across the road. Another blink from the car windshield. One by one, every reflective surface around me, windows, mirrors, chrome, started flashing red. Each blink slightly out of sync, like a signal trying to find the right frequency. And beneath it all, that static whisper again. Scroll. 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 I dropped the laptop onto the driveway. It didn't shatter. It just kept humming, light breathing out from under the keyboard. On the screen, new text began to write itself. Upload paused until observer confirms presence, then, directly below it, look up. I did. Nothing but the black outline of power lines and sky. Still, the hum grew louder, pressing against my eardrums until I had to cover them. When I looked down again, the progress bar had jumped to 99%, and under it, my name glowing red. I slammed the lid shut. The light leaked through anyway. A single notification buzzed from my phone inside my pocket. Upload complete. The street went dark. The livestream had no title, just a white square thumbnail and the number of viewers. One, I found it by accident scrolling through a dead-end list of unlisted streams linked on an abandoned subreddit. The post was 5 years old. Every other link was broken except that one. The URL was just numbers. No username, no comment section, just a gray chat bar that read, "Live for 1,742 days." The feed opened to a room. Plain, clinical, the kind of place you recognize without wanting to. Fluorescent light humming overhead. White walls that looked yellow around the corners. A single hospital bed centered against the far wall. The camera was fixed in place, angled from the corner near the ceiling. Always the same frame. There was no sound except the low hiss of the mic picking up the hum of the lights. The caption under the video said, "Quiet room 9, do not disturb." For the first hour, nothing happened. I remember checking the chat and seeing that my name was the only one there. The viewer count stayed at 1 even after I joined. At some point, I realized I was holding my breath. The emptiness had a rhythm to it, steady, mechanical, but with this strange feeling that something should be there. Like the camera was waiting. The bed was neatly made, white sheet folded with the corners tucked sharp. Beside it, a heart monitor blinked a green line across the screen every few seconds. The tone was muted, but I could almost feel it. The timestamp in the top corner flickered slightly every few minutes. Sometimes it skipped seconds, 8,003:55, 2:03:58, 2:040. It wasn't lag. The frame rate was perfect, just missing moments. Around 2:18 a.m., something shifted. Not movement. Just the light. The room brightened for exactly 1 second, like a camera flash, then dimmed back to normal. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw a shadow in the bed. I rewound the stream by 10 seconds. But the flash wasn't there anymore. The progress bar had no markings, no history. When I tried to skip forward, the page froze. The viewer count changed. 2, a second user joined the chat. No name, no profile, just a single gray dot. A message appeared. "Don't stay past 3. Then it vanished. I thought it was a prank. Some old ARG that had outlived its audience. But the more I stared at the screen, the harder it was to look away. At 2:40, the monitor beside the bed stopped blinking. The green line went flat, but the machine stayed on. I leaned closer, trying to see if the camera was looping. It wasn't. The timestamp kept moving to 2:40:05, 2:40:06, 2:40:07. The air in my room felt heavier. Then the monitor flickered back to life on its own, as if catching its breath. 59. The chat window flashed red. A system message appeared. "Quiet hour begins in 60 seconds. The screen dimmed slightly. The viewer count went back to 1. I didn't leave. I should have. At exactly 3 p.m., the feed stuttered. The camera refocused for the first time since I'd opened it. The bed looked rumpled now, like someone had been lying there. Then came the sound. A soft inhale, long, slow, muffled under static. I pulled my headphones off and set them on the desk, but the sound didn't stop. I could still hear it faintly, like it was coming from behind the wall. I muted the stream. The inhale continued. The timestamp froze at 3:17. Then a new caption appeared under the video. Viewer detected. Syncing. My mouse stopped working. I tried closing the tab, but the cursor drifted on its own toward the volume icon and unmuted the feed. The inhale turned into quiet, steady breathing. Not mechanical, not recorded, real. The chat box flashed once. A new line appeared in red. Do you hear it too? I typed back without thinking, what is this? For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the breathing stopped. The camera zoomed in just a few inches closer to the bed. The lens made a tiny adjusting sound. There was no one there, but the sheets were moving, not much. Just the slow rise and fall, like someone breathing under the blanket. The monitor beside the bed blinked again, showing a single pulse. Then two. Then steady rhythm. The timestamp jumped forward 30 seconds. The breathing stopped. The bed was still again. Another message appeared. Quiet hour complete. The viewer count dropped to 0. The video froze for a second, then started playing again. But the camera angle was different. It was now pointed directly at the corner of the ceiling, where the lens had been before, like someone had moved it. I closed the browser. When I checked my downloads folder a minute later, a new file had appeared on its own. Quietroom9visitor.log. When I opened it, the text inside read, Session joined, 02:03:41. Session exited. The dash blinked for a while, like it was waiting for me to leave. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw that blinking dash waiting for me to exit. By sunrise, I convinced myself the file was a virus, some old malware disguised as a spooky stream. I wiped the cache, changed every password, reset my router. For a while, everything was quiet again. Then around noon, my phone vibrated. A new notification. Quiet Room 9. Live now. The thumbnail showed the same room, same camera angle as before. The viewer count said 1. I hadn't subscribed. When I tapped the notification, the app didn't open. The phone froze, screen flickering white, until the speaker cracked with a faint, distant hiss, like someone breathing too close to a mic. I powered it off, pulled the SIM card, left it face down on the counter. Still, from the other side of the apartment, I could swear I heard the quiet beep of that heart monitor. Steady, patient, impossible. By evening, I was watching the stream again. It wasn't curiosity this time. It was obligation. The same way you double-check a locked door even though you know you locked it. The URL still worked. The title bar still read Quiet Room 9, Do Not Disturb, but the timestamp had reset. It now read 0:02 live, and there were 2 viewers again. The chat was empty except for a system message repeating every minute. Please remain quiet while observation is in progress. The bed was empty. The walls were darker than before, stained in places like moisture had crept up from the floor. The corner of the room looked deeper, shadows layered thick like folds of fabric. Every so often, the mic picked up faint clicks, as if someone were walking just out of frame in soft shoes. At 2 and on the stream clock, the chat box lit up. A message appeared from the gray dot user. It notices sound, then another. If you talk, it looks. The words faded after 5 seconds. I sat completely still, headphones halfway off my ears. For a moment, I thought I could see movement in that far corner shadow. A ripple, like something breathing behind the wall. Then the sound started. Not a voice exactly, more like the air itself whispering through a small opening. It came in slow bursts, the pattern of someone mouthing words without speaking them. I turned the volume down. The whisper stayed the same volume. Then the heart monitor beeped once. The chat flashed red. Please remain quiet. At the 3-minute mark, the bed moved. Just a twitch of the sheet, as though a draft had passed through the room. But there were no windows, no vents visible. Just that single closed door. The breathing under the static grew louder, close now, almost beside my ear. My own reflection flickered faintly on the screen, warped by compression. I leaned in, squinting at the monitor's dark edge. Something was standing behind me in the reflection. It didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just stood there, a shape made of static, flickering in and out like it couldn't decide whether to exist. I turned around. The room was empty. When I faced the screen again, the shape was gone, but the camera angle in the feed had changed. It now pointed directly at the wall where I sat. The timestamp jumped ahead 6 hours. The heart monitor was silent. The bed was perfectly still again, and the viewer count was 1. My name was gone from the chat list. In its place, a gray dot. The same gray dot I'd seen before. I closed the tab, shut the laptop, unplugged everything. For a few hours, I felt almost normal. But that night, the sound came back. Soft, measured breaths coming from my desk, spaced exactly 3 seconds apart. I lifted the laptop lid. It was on, though I'd cut the power. The screen showed a black background with a single white box. Quiet room log updated. Session active. I scrolled. Beneath my name, a new line had appeared. Audio connected. The mic icon in the corner glowed red. I covered it with tape. It glowed through. By 3 a.m., the breathing stopped again. The room fell silent except for the hum of electricity in the walls. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned, waiting for something else to happen. Then the faintest sound reached me, far away, buried deep under static. My own voice, it was whispering, "Don't move. It's listening." I spent the next day pretending nothing had happened. Windows open, music playing, phone off, noise to drown out the hum that still seemed to vibrate behind my thoughts. By afternoon, the air felt lighter. I convinced myself I'd hallucinated the whisper. Sleep deprivation, algorithm paranoia, whatever. Then I opened my fridge and saw the timestamp. It was burned into the condensation on the glass milk bottle. Digital-looking numbers, perfect font. 3:17, the exact second the first syncing message had appeared. The numbers vanished when I wiped the bottle. I closed the fridge and laughed once, too hard just to hear my own voice. And from the living room, the laptop answered back with a faint click. When I went to check, the screen was already on. No browser, no file window, just a live counter running upward. 0, a 1, 0, 0, 0, 2. At 10 seconds, a new overlay appeared. Quiet room 9, external feed established. Below it, a second box, camera source local. The webcam light glowed red. I pulled a sticky note off my desk and covered it, but the light still leaked around the edges, pulsing in rhythm with the counter. When I backed away, the mic icon flared on again. Audio calibration. Please remain quiet. I didn't move. The fan slowed to silence. Then the video feed replaced itself with a mirror image of my own apartment. Same desk, same lamp, but darker, like someone had drawn the brightness out of the walls. In the reflection feed, I wasn't at the desk. The chair was empty. Something else sat in it, shape correct but wrong in texture, like a photograph that had been copied too many times. It raised a hand slowly and pointed at the screen, at me. I slammed the lid shut and unplugged the machine again. The screen stayed faintly lit through the crack, white bleeding like fog. I went outside and sat on the steps until morning. Every window in the building behind me glowed faint blue from televisions and laptops left running. All of them flickered at the same moment once every 3 seconds, the same rhythm as the heart monitor beep from the live stream. The next day, my neighbor knocked. She held up a tablet. "Your stream's playing again," she said. Her voice sounded far away. On her screen was the quiet room, same white bed, same camera angle. But the viewer count read 2. And in the reflection on the floor beneath the hospital bed, I could see my own apartment window. I told her it wasn't mine, that I didn't stream anything. She frowned. "Well, it's using your Wi-Fi." When she left, I pulled the router plug again. The indicator lights went dark except one, a small red pulse that shouldn't exist. I followed the cable to the wall. The port wasn't connected to anything, just drywall. That night, I set up my phone to record while I slept. No internet, airplane mode. At 3 a.m. sharp, it woke itself and started streaming. I didn't know until morning when the battery was dead and the video thumbnail showed my own room perfectly lit, even though the lamp had been off. When I played it back, the camera shook slightly, like someone had breathed on the lens. At the 30-second mark, a faint line of text appeared across the screen. Quiet hour commencing. Then everything in the frame froze, except for the shadow on the wall behind me. The shadow leaned forward, close to my sleeping face until its head eclipsed mine. The video ended there. I packed a bag that afternoon. I didn't care where I went. Motel, friend's couch, anywhere without screens. Driving out of the city, every billboard I passed glitched for a fraction of a second. The white rectangles of ad space turning blank except for a small red square in the corner. Inside each square, QR9, Quiet Room 9. I stopped at a rest area, turned off the car and looked up at the sky. For a few peaceful minutes there was only darkness and wind. Then the radio came on by itself. Static first, then the sound of breathing. A calm, slow inhale. A pause. Then my voice, "You're being observed." I threw the keys into the seat beside me and stepped out into the cold air. The sound kept going, muffled now, leaking from the car speakers like the vehicle itself was breathing. Across the lot, a security camera pivoted toward me, the red indicator blinking in the same 3-second rhythm. I didn't wait to see if it moved again. I didn't drive far, just until the radio static faded and the horizon looked unfamiliar. I found a small roadside motel, one of those single-story places that smelled like rain-soaked carpet and cleaning spray. The sign out front flickered red letters, vacancy, the same color as the timestamp I'd seen so many times. The man at the counter didn't ask for ID, just slid a key across the laminate and said, "Wi-Fi's free. Password's on the card." I told him I wouldn't need it. He gave a polite laugh that didn't sound human. Inside the room, I unplugged everything. TV, alarm clock, even the lamp. I wanted silence, but silence had stopped feeling safe. It was the sound the feed loved most. The air conditioner clicked on by itself, humming in a steady rhythm. 3 seconds on, 3 seconds off. I tried to sleep on top of the covers. My phone stayed off, battery pulled out, face down on the nightstand. Still, sometime around 3 a.m., the room lightened with a faint white glow. I opened my eyes. The television screen had turned itself on, even though the power cord lay coiled on the carpet. The image was grainy at first, static resolving into the familiar white bed. Quiet Room 9. The viewer count in the corner, 1. The bed on the screen was empty. Then slowly the camera tilted as though whoever held it wanted to show me something just off frame. A window, square, uncurtained, showing darkness outside, and the exact shape of the motel parking lot. A car sat in the farthest space. My car, I got up, heart hammering. The TV hummed louder, pixels distorting like breath against glass. I walked to the curtain and pulled it open. The parking lot was empty except for my car, and a camera tripod standing directly behind it, pointed at my window. No person. No cables. Just the faint red blink of a recording light. I closed the curtain and backed away. The TV image changed again. Now the feed showed the inside of my motel room, as if filmed from the opposite wall. I could see myself standing there, frozen, watching myself. In the corner of the feed, white text appeared. "Quiet hour begins in 30 seconds, I whispered, no, without realizing it. And the me on the screen mouthed the same word half a beat later. The lights dimmed. The television sound faded to a low pulse, steady and patient. Then for the first time, I saw movement inside the quiet room feed. A shape climbing slowly onto the bed, sliding under the sheet, settling into the dent of a body that wasn't there. The heart monitor beeped once. The version of me on the screen turned its head toward the camera and smiled faintly, like it had been waiting for me to notice. Then the screen went black. I must have lost time. When I came to, sunlight was leaking through the curtain, bright and ordinary. The TV was dead again. On the nightstand sat my phone, battery reinserted. I don't remember doing it. The lock screen showed a new notification. Quiet Room 9. Session ended. I opened the message before I could stop myself. It was just a single line of text. External feed stabilized, and underneath that, location confirmed. I checked out within minutes. The clerk didn't look up when I dropped the key on the counter. His computer screen reflected in the glass behind him. White light, sterile walls, a single bed. Outside, the morning looked normal. Birds, traffic, sunlight, but every passing car radio clicked on the same rhythm. 3 seconds of static, 3 seconds off. I drove until my hands cramped on the steering wheel. By the time I reached the city again, I decided to destroy every device I owned. I left the laptop in a dumpster behind a gas station, the phone in another miles away. For the first time in weeks, the air felt clean. That night, I stayed at a friend's apartment, someone who still used paper calendars and kept an analog clock beside the bed. We talked until late. I didn't mention the stream. I didn't have to. She kept glancing at me like she could sense something still clinging to the edges of my voice. When she finally fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the clock's ticking hands. At exactly 3 a.m., the second hand paused mid-tick. The room fell completely silent. Then the clock's small face flickered once just for a breath, showing not numbers but a digital timestamp. So 3:00:17. I left before sunrise. My friend was still asleep, breathing evenly, unaware that her clock was no longer ticking. Outside, the sky had that strange, washed-out gray that comes before morning, like the world was buffering. I told myself I'd drive until I ran out of road, but when I reached the highway on-ramp, I froze. Every digital sign overhead flashed the same message in red: Quiet Room 9, do not disturb. I took the next exit and parked behind a rest stop, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. The radio clicked on. No sound this time, just the faint echo of a heartbeat. Steady, patient, 3 seconds apart. At a diner, I asked for a payphone, something with buttons that clacked when you pressed them. The waitress pointed toward the back, smiling like she'd already answered that question before. The payphone receiver was warm when I lifted it. Before I could dial, a voice spoke through the static. My own voice: "You didn't exit." I dropped the receiver. It swung back and forth, bumping the wall. The sound kept playing from the earpiece, my voice breathing, whispering, syncing perfectly to the rhythm of my pulse. The waitress was watching me when I came back out. I think she said something, but the words blurred, muffled under the hiss that now lived in my ears. I checked into another motel that night. Different town, same layout, same flickering sign. The air conditioner still clicked in that 3-second cycle. I sat on the edge of the bed and turned on the television deliberately, just to prove I wasn't afraid. For a moment, it showed static, then just black. The chat box appeared in the lower corner of the screen. System, quiet hour begins. Viewer 02, are you comfortable? I didn't type anything. I didn't move. Then a new message appeared. White text bleeding slightly around the edges. Viewer 02. Please remain quiet while observation is in progress. The camera angle was different now. It wasn't the quiet room, it was my motel room. The shot was from above, like a security feed, and I could see myself sitting there in real time, frozen, staring at the TV. Behind me, in the screen's reflection, something was standing in the doorway. Just a tall shadow, shape unclear. It leaned slightly closer, as if reading over my shoulder. My body in the feed didn't react. Then the heart monitor tone began again, low and steady. I reached for the TV's power button. The screen dimmed but didn't shut off. The image kept glowing faintly, the black deepening until it looked like an open doorway. Something in the darkness shifted. Not forward. Out. The glow from the screen spread across the carpet, pale and cold, like moonlight made of static. A voice came through the speakers, not loud, not even a whisper, just a breath shaped into a single word. Stay. The feed blinked once, now the camera was closer, facing the bed. The shape beneath the sheets moved, restless, like it was waking up. The heart monitor beeped faster, and in the top right corner of the screen, the timestamp appeared again. Rear Q17, I turned away, pressed my palms against my eyes, counted the seconds. When I looked back, the screen was empty. The chat window was blank. Then a system message appeared. Different font this time. Sharper, almost handwritten. Session complete. Beneath it, a final line. Thank you for your silence. The screen faded to gray. I didn't sleep. I left the motel before dawn and drove for hours with the radio off. Every so often, when the sunlight hit the windshield just right, I saw faint letters reflected in the glass. Quiet room 9, no matter how far I drove. The signal followed: cell towers, security cameras. Anything with a lens seemed to flicker toward me. Once, passing through a small town, I caught sight of a store window displaying muted TVs for sale. All of them were on the same channel, the same room. White walls, single bed, a heartbeat monitor blinking faintly in the corner, and on the screen nearest the glass a reflection. My reflection. It lifted its hand slowly and pointed outward, at me. When I got home, I found my old laptop waiting on the kitchen counter, the one I'd left in the dumpster. It was open, screen dark, power light pulsing softly. I didn't touch it, didn't move. The light blinked 3 times. Then the faint sound of breathing filled the room again, steady, patient, too close. The laptop screen brightened to a white glow, filling the walls with its reflection. A line of text appeared. Quiet hour. Commencing. And beneath it, for the first time, a new timestamp, Cruden 018. I found the Pain Museum by accident. Or maybe it found me. It was 2:14 a.m., one of those hours where the internet starts to feel too quiet, like you've wandered too far down a hallway that never ends. I'd been scrolling through niche art forums, half asleep, when I clicked on a link that didn't have a name, just a symbol. 3 interlocking circles. The site loaded instantly. No ads, no cookie warnings. Just a black screen with white text that read, painmuseum.exe. We archive what you can't forget. Below that was a single button, enter. Exhibity should have closed the tab right then. But something about the phrase got under my skin. We archive what you can't forget? I clicked. The page opened into what looked like a 3D gallery, walls stretching into darkness, each illuminated by pale floating rectangles like digital picture frames. Every frame contained a video loop. I hovered over one and a name appeared beneath it. The sound of my mother leaving. Another said, June 9th, the message I never sent. Each title made my chest tighten a little, like I'd walked into a room built entirely out of other people's regrets. There was a low hum behind everything. Not music, something softer. Maybe recorded breathing. At the far end of the gallery, a door flickered in and out of focus. Above it, a message appeared. Guests may contribute. When I clicked the door, a white form filled the screen. Name, age, emotion to contribute. Below that, a single question. What moment still hurts? There was a blinking cursor waiting for me to answer. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a long time before I typed anything. I didn't know why I did it. It felt like the kind of question that wanted something from you. I wrote, when I told someone I was fine, and they believed me. The screen froze for half a second. Then a small spinning circle appeared, followed by the message, submission accepted. Uploading memory. I felt a drop in my stomach, like I'd just signed something I shouldn't have. The gallery shifted. The camera drifted on its own, pulling me down a new corridor lined with blank frames. At the end was a fresh exhibit, glowing faint red. It was titled, When I Told Someone I Was Fine. Inside the frame, I saw my own reflection just sitting at my desk, in real time, except I wasn't moving. The version of me in the video stared directly at the screen, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, like I'd been caught between breaths. Then it blinked once, out of sync with me. I pulled away from the monitor. My reflection kept staring. The background behind the reflection was wrong. It wasn't my room. It was the same endless black gallery, and from the speakers, that faint breathing sound grew louder, steadier, like whoever was recording had stepped closer to the mic. Then a whisper, quiet and distant. You belong here now. The frame flickered and went dark. The site's homepage returned on its own, but everything looked different. The logo had changed. Now it said Pain Museum V2.2, user integrated. I clicked the gallery again. My exhibit was gone. The other videos kept looping. Some of them had faint outlines moving inside the frames. Figures pacing, turning toward the viewer, pressing their hands against invisible glass. In one frame, a person sat at a desk almost identical to mine. The caption beneath read, The Night I Found Pain Museum. The looping version of that person looked terrified. When I leaned closer to the screen, the reflection in the glass shifted again. For a second I saw something behind me, a shadow crossing the wall, moving slow and deliberate like it knew the timing of my breath. I spun around. Nothing. When I turned back, the website had logged me out, but there was a new file on my desktop. Pain Museum, user config log. I opened it. Inside was a single line of text. Exhibit uploaded successfully. Room created. Viewing in progress. At the bottom of the file, a counter began to tick upward like a visitor count. Viewer. 2 viewers. 3 viewers. I closed my laptop, shoved it under my bed, and sat in the dark until the sun came up. When I finally turned it back on, the desktop background had changed. It wasn't the default wallpaper anymore. It was a still image from the website, one of those endless black hallways, stretching into nothing, and at the very end of it, barely visible in the glow, was a small red frame with my name written underneath. I stopped sleeping after that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the quiet hum of that gallery, the endless, low-frequency sound that sits somewhere between electricity and breathing. By the third day, even silence started to feel wrong. I'd hear faint clicks inside my walls, or a whisper just on the other side of my phone speaker, never clear enough to understand, but always there. When I turned my phone off, the sound continued. My sister wouldn't speak to me. She blocked my number after I begged her to get rid of her laptop. The last text she sent was just 2 words. "It's full." I didn't understand what she meant until I went back to the Pain Museum site. Her name was on the homepage now, under featured exhibits. When I hovered over it, the preview frame opened. At first it was just her room, lit by a desk lamp, same sweater she'd worn that night. Then she turned slowly, like she was reacting to something behind the camera. Her face changed, not fear, not pain exactly, but that look you get right before you cry, when something you thought was private suddenly isn't anymore. The title beneath her name said, "When He Showed Me His." I closed the browser. I started to notice the logo everywhere after that. 3 overlapping circles printed faintly on coffee cups, on receipts, on the corner of YouTube thumbnails. Sometimes the symbol flashed for just a fraction of a second, too quick to screenshot, but enough to know it was there. And every time I saw it, my reflection in the screen would flicker, not quite syncing with me, just a half-second delay. By the end of the week, I'd stopped touching any devices at all. No phone, no computer. I bought a stack of notebooks and started writing everything down, dates, numbers, what I remembered seeing on the site. But the handwriting never looked like mine. It was always slightly off, slanted too hard to the right, or with loops in letters I didn't write that way. On the 7th night, I woke up to the sound of paper tearing. The notebook sat open on my desk. A new line of text had appeared on the last page, written in the same off handwriting. The archive doesn't stop when you close your eyes. I burned that notebook. But the next morning, the ashes in the trash bin had rearranged themselves into a pattern. 3 small circles pressed into the black dust. At some point, I started visiting the site again. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to see what it was turning into. The gallery was bigger now. Thousands of exhibits, names I recognized, usernames from social media, friends from years ago, even a few strangers who'd commented on old posts I'd made. Each title read like a confession. Each video looped endlessly. People caught in moments that looked private or unfinished, or worse, like they didn't know they were being watched. And in the top corner, a counter blinked rapidly. Visitors, 8,002. Visitors, 8,003. Visitors, 8,004 every second. Another person joined. I tried to log out. There was no button anymore. When I hovered my mouse to the top corner, a message appeared instead. Contributors cannot exit while observed. I turned off my Wi-Fi. The site stayed open. Around midnight, the breathing returned, louder this time, layered with dozens of other faint voices whispering behind it. I recognized one of them, my sister. I leaned closer to the screen. Her voice was repeating the same sentence from her dream. It only hurts when they look. The whisper overlapped with others, a crowd murmuring in sync, until it turned into something that almost sounded like static. The gallery's walls began to pulse faintly with light, like the building itself was alive. One by one, the exhibits started flickering, their titles changing mid-loop. When we remembered, when we tried to leave, when we finally understood. I scrolled faster, but the walls kept stretching, new corridors unfolding as I moved, endless, recursive, like a maze built out of other people's sorrow. And then, for a moment, every video feed went black at once. The hum stopped. A new message appeared in the center of the screen. Room construction complete. You may enter. The monitor flickered. Now there was a door on the screen. White, glowing faintly red around the edges. I didn't touch anything, but the camera angle drifted forward, like the program had decided for me. When the door opened, there wasn't another room behind it. It was my apartment. Same desk, same chair, and on the screen inside that scene I could see myself, sitting there, watching. For a few seconds, neither version of me moved. Then the me on the screen raised a hand, slow, deliberate, and pointed directly toward the camera. The lights in my apartment flickered once, and my speakers hissed. The whispering voices spoke in unison, calm and final. Pain shared is pain preserved. Then the screen went white. When the screen went white, I thought the computer had finally crashed. But then I saw it. Faint outlines in the glow like something behind frosted glass. Shapes moving, figures blurry at first, pacing slowly as though waiting for me to notice them. The white light pulsed once. Each pulse synced with my heartbeat. Then, a line of text formed across the screen. Do you remember why you came here? I didn't touch the keyboard, but the cursor blinked once, then started typing on its own. Because it wouldn't stop hurting, the reply appeared immediately. Good. Now show us. I closed the laptop. The light didn't go out. White bled through the cracks of the screen, spreading across the walls of my apartment like liquid light. The hum came back, louder, denser, layered with that same chorus of whispers, each voice indistinguishable from the next. I covered my ears, but the sound wasn't coming from outside anymore. It was inside my head. Every whisper was saying something different. Old phrases, moments I'd tried to forget. You said you were fine. You didn't mean it. You still check, don't you? I unplugged everything. Power cords, router, lamps. I ripped them out until the room went black. But the light from the laptop screen didn't fade. It was still open, glowing faintly on the floor. I could see myself reflected in it, barely visible. The edges of my face pixelating like static. When I blinked, the reflection didn't. Instead, it smiled. I grabbed the laptop, carried it outside, and left it in the dumpster behind the building. For a few hours, I actually felt relief. Silence. Real silence for the first time in days. Until my neighbor knocked on my door around midnight. He was holding the laptop. It was playing something, he said, frowning. I thought it was yours. He handed it to me. The screen was cracked, but still glowing faintly. The same words pulsed across it. Exhibit relocation complete. This time I didn't fight it. I opened the lid. The gallery appeared again, but it wasn't empty anymore. Every wall was filled with moving images, but they weren't exhibits. They were doorways. Through each one I could see fragments of real places, apartments, bedrooms, bus stops, offices. People sitting in front of screens watching, their faces faintly illuminated by the same pale glow. And beneath each feed, a name, thousands of them, all formatted the same way, user, nullo, integrated. I searched for my name. It wasn't there anymore, but at the bottom of the screen a new line appeared. Creator, online. The hum deepened until I could feel it in my bones. Something about it was familiar now. Rhythmic, constant, comforting in a wrong way, like hearing your own heartbeat echo from someone else's chest. A box popped up in the corner of the screen. New exhibit upload detected. Source, local environment. Before I could react, the webcam light flicked on, even though I'd ripped the cable out days ago. I saw myself again. Same blank stare, same half-open mouth, but this time the reflection wasn't alone. Behind me, standing just at the edge of the frame, was a dark silhouette. Tall, motionless, impossible to focus on. Every time I blinked, it shifted slightly closer. I turned around. Nothing. When I faced the screen again, the figure had stepped forward until it was right behind my chair. Close enough that I could almost feel the weight of its presence against the back of my neck. Then the text changed. Your contribution is complete. The next morning, I found a letter taped to my door. No return address. Just the same three-circle symbol pressed into the envelope, faint like a watermark. Inside was a single printed photo. It was me, sitting in front of the screen staring blankly at the white light. The angle was different, though. It was taken from behind, like someone had been standing in the corner of my room. At the bottom of the photo was a caption, "Exhibit, the one who tried to leave." After that, my reflection stopped working properly. Every mirror, every dark surface, and it lagged like a bad video feed. Sometimes I'd turn away and the reflection wouldn't follow for a full second. Other times, it moved before I did. I started covering the mirrors, blacking out windows, avoiding anything that could cast back my image. But screens are everywhere. Elevators, checkout counters, phones, even bus windows. All of them bright enough to show that faint outline waiting just behind me. Every surface turned into a reminder. The Pain Museum wasn't just online anymore. It had seeped into everything that could look back. I checked the site one last time that week. The gallery had stopped updating. The visitor count was frozen at 9999. When I scrolled to the very end, I saw something new. A section labeled Offline Exhibits. Inside were only 2 frames. One was mine. The other was my sister's, and beneath both, a countdown darir or 7 der. 5I closed the browser before it hit 0. But when I turned away from the screen, the reflection in the dark window behind me was already smiling. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days after that countdown. I thought maybe if I stayed still long enough, didn't touch a single screen, the world would forget I existed. But the world doesn't forget. It archives. Every night the air felt heavier, like static before a storm, charged with something unseen. I'd catch flickers of movement in the dark, not shadows exactly, but a sense of being mirrored. My own gestures playing back a second too late. It wasn't paranoia anymore. It was rhythm, like something syncing with me. The electricity went out on the 4th night. No lights, no hum, no glowing screens, just quiet. For a while that silence felt like mercy. But then, from the far corner of the room, came the faint sound of clicking, soft, steady, familiar. It was the same sound the Pain Museum made when a new exhibit loaded. Click, pause, click, pause. And then, out of the dark, a shape began to form. Not solid, just a distortion in the air, a faint shimmer like heat rising off asphalt. It didn't move closer. It waited. And then, from that same invisible place, I heard my own voice whisper, "You belong in the archive." When the power came back, every light in the apartment turned on at once. The laptop, still in the trash where I'd thrown it days ago, was open on the floor, screen glowing red. The gallery was gone. Now there was only a single frame filling the entire screen. Inside it was a hallway, long, sterile, and empty. At the far end, a door stood slightly open. Light leaked out in a steady, slow pulse like something breathing. Above the door, words faded in one letter at a time. Pain Museum, physical entry in progressi. Don't remember deciding to move, but I was standing before I realized it. Each step I took felt too quiet, like the room itself was muffling sound. When I reached the laptop, the image inside the screen shifted, now showing my own living room captured from an impossible angle, like someone had placed a camera in the ceiling. The me inside the video looked straight up, eyes wide as though he finally saw the lens, and then the screen went black again. After that, I started hearing things outside my apartment. Footsteps in the hallway at 3 a.m. Knocking that came in groups of 3, always followed by silence. Sometimes faint murmurs through the wall. Voices saying fragments of sentences, too soft to understand except for one word that always repeated. Room. I tried to tell myself it was all part of the hallucination, sleep deprivation, panic, imagination eating its own tail. Until the morning I found the package, a small box. No return address. Just a sticker of the 3-circle symbol pressed across the seal. Inside was a glass slide like something from a museum display. Etched into it, barely visible, were the words, "Exhibit number $100,000 completed." When I held it up to the light, I could see the faint outline of a person on it. Their face was blurred, but the posture, the slouch of the shoulders, the tilt of the head was unmistakable. It was me. That night, I decided to destroy everything. Laptop, phone, hard drives, even the walls of the apartment if I had to. I packed what I could and left before dawn, driving until the city lights disappeared behind me. No GPS, no radio. Just silence. After a few hours, I stopped at a gas station off the highway. Inside, the clerk was staring at a small tablet propped up next to the register. He didn't look up when I walked in. I paid for gas and glanced at the screen out of habit. It was showing a video. It had a man sitting in a car, staring blankly through the windshield. It took me a moment to realize the man was me. I ran back outside. The car door was open. My phone, which I swear I'd left turned off in the glove box, was sitting on the seat, unlocked. On the screen was the Pain Museum homepage. Only one exhibit left now. The title read, "The One Still Trying to Forget," and beneath it, a live visitor count. Climbing fast, 947, 108, 237, each number a person, watching. The air around me felt thinner, like the space itself was being flattened, pressed into a screen. When I looked up, the horizon wasn't there anymore. Just a vast black surface stretching outward, reflecting me back. Faint, pixelated, already fading. Now wherever I go, screens flicker when I pass. I see faces I almost recognize in every reflection. People caught mid-expression like they're waiting to be cataloged. Sometimes, when I blink, I catch glimpses of the gallery again. Endless corridors of light. Each door marked with a name I can't quite remember. Sometimes I think I hear my sister's voice calling from somewhere inside it. Other times it's my own. The Pain Museum doesn't ask for passwords anymore. It doesn't need a connection. It's in the glass, in the light, in the act of looking. And every time someone scrolls too far, pauses too long, stares into the white for just 1 second more, another room is built, another exhibit opens, another visitor arrives. The last thing I ever wrote down before I stopped keeping track was this: pain shared is pain preserved, and the archive never runs out of space.